Welcome to Powered by Nyame. I'm your guide and host, Kwesi Kunadu. Welcome back to another episode of Powered by Nyame. This week, our focus will be on two concepts. One is paradise, the other is plantation. There's a book by a colleague of mine that came out a few years ago entitled Paradise and Plantation. And the argument of the book is that the Caribbean basin, which is largely people of African ancestry, amongst other people, but largely people of African ancestry who built the Americas, and some might say the modern world, through their enslaved labor, skill, and innovation. And this Caribbean basin serves as the paradise, the idyllic paradise, the beaches, the resorts, the hotels, the rivers and waterfalls, the activities and horseback riding, and all the other pleasures that come at the expense of the people who supply that, people who are my complexion and sometimes deeper African brown, that who are the servants and the servers and the house cleaners and the cooks and entertainers that essentially live plantation lives, that live on plantation wages, so that those visitors, usually white but Eurasian mostly, that come to experience paradise at the expense of their plantation lives. And so this idea of plantation and paradise is what I want to explore with you today. And you might be wondering, what does this have to do with spirituality, culture, and history? Well, everything. You see, many of us think or believe, whether deep down unconsciously or consciously, that slavery is over. Slavery is like a museum object. Slavery exists in a place called the past, that you can go to like a museum and visit and wonder and marvel, oh, that's nice. Oh, they used to whip those enslaved Africans with whips and chains, and they used to torture them, and yes, they did horrible things to them, but that was in the past, no longer today. We now are modern. Well, what I want to share with you, which some of you may know from reading some of my books, that slavery is and was not institution. It was not simply the backdrop, that is sort of the props of cotton and tobacco and sugar and molasses and rum. Yes, those things were part of the material set up for slavery. But what I want to make clear is that slavery is not a system, it's not an institution, it's not in the past. Slavery is a power relation, which means you can always have the slaveholder-slave relationship wherever you and I and others call human beings exist. And so by that token, slavery continues. Some of you may be familiar with my articles online about modern day slavery, and I've made my case there. If you're interested, you can check them out. I'll provide a link in this video or others so you can check it out if you need direct access. That being said, what I'm poking at in this notion of slavery is that the plantation of paradise cannot exist without this power relationship, without the power dynamic. And so think about when you go to a hotel, a resort. It could be anywhere in the Caribbean, it could be in South America, it could be in Africa, anywhere in the world, particularly in the African world that you go to. And notice the props are very similar, almost the same. So for example, I've traveled throughout the Caribbean basin, Trinidad, Barbados, Bahamas, Jamaica, other parts. Traveled in Brazil extensively. Traveled certainly in the United States and Canada and throughout Europe and Western Africa. And what I see there is a similar setup in terms of the props. And so, for example, in Brazil, it is the hotels, it is the offerings of black women as prostitutes and sexual toys for the appetites, usually of white men, but not solely. It is the entertainment, it is the capoeira, the music and the drumming and dancing to serve as the amusement for this power relationship. However, when it comes to the reality in places like Brazil, is that, particularly Salvador Bahia in Brazil, but it's not exclusively, is that we see plantation and paradise. Is that the people in, let's say, Rio or Rio de Janeiro who are indigenous, who are people of my complexion and deeper African brown, you see, they can't go to the beaches. The beaches are reserved for the tourists, right? So this is about race and class, because tourists are people who can afford the beaches, whereby people in the favelas or the slums, what is reserved for them is a small little pool that they can go to, but they can't go to their own beaches because that's reserved for the tourists or those who can afford to do so. And those tourists are usually of a certain complexion, a certain class standing. And so the poor, however, can be a part of the props. They are the servers, they are the servants, they are the cleaners, they are the people working in the kitchen, they are the people cleaning the streets. And so, yes, they have a place, but their place in this scenery is as props. They are essentially removable and replaceable props. Anyone can take their place if they don't act right or play out their script in that particular role. You bring it to the Caribbean. Same notion. Look at the brochures, look at the commercials, look at the actual places you visit in the Caribbean basin, whether it's the Bahamas or Barbados or Jamaica, which is a fan favorite of all. You'll see that the people who are serving are usually of a deeper African hue. And the people who are at the front desk, if they're not white, they are what is so-called light skin. That is part of the prop making. That's part of the scenery setting. That's part of the power dynamic. Right? That is not an accident. And so the plantation workers and the plantation lifestyle and living buoys and supports the paradise that these visitors enjoy. And so the Caribbean is simply just one big resort by which the regular working class and even working poor, if that's even a concept, their lives are at the mercy of these individuals who come to visit this plantation resort, right, to experience their paradise. I'll give you another example. Some time ago, I was at a resort in one of these islands in the Caribbean, very popular place. The name is not important right now. And I could tell you that the people, the African descended people, the African people who are working in the hotels, who are my complexion and deeper African brown, by and large, without fail, they're the ones who are the servants in the restaurants. They're the ones who are the cleaners in the restaurant, both out in the restaurant and behind scenes in the restaurant. They're the ones who are taking out the trash. They're the ones who are providing for entertainment. They're the ones who are cleaning the tables after the meals. Whereas the people at the front desk or the people at the front station that are greeting the visitors, right, the voyeurs who come to have this paradise experience, they are either white or very light, without fail. The same is true along the parts where have the pools, the people who are, again, providing the liquor and the bars and the staff in the bars and the small little kiosks tend to be my complexion and deeper. The people who are cleaning up after those who are leaving their empty glass bottles or drink bottles and food containers are my complexion and deeper. Whereas those people who are indoors, the AC, air conditioned, and at the front desk and in the offices behind the scene for the hotels and the administrators tend to be of a different kind of complexion, even if they're of African ancestry, which is sometimes hit or miss. And the point I'm getting is that because slavery is a power relation, is a power dynamic, colonialism is about a power, right? And I want to give you a definition of power so that this notion is clearer for you and what I mean by it. You see, power is the ability to define reality and have other people's accept it as if it were their own. Again, power is the ability to define reality and have others accept it as their own. And so this notion that people's skin complexion should reflect a certain power relationship means that the managers and the staff and the odd workers and the seasonal workers and the owners all have a certain power relationship, a power framework which they're operating from, and that power plays out in the selection of jobs, in the selection of whose presence greets the voyeurs or visitors, and what kind of experience the voyeurs have vis-a-vis this color gradation, this power relationship, right? It also infuses in the people of African ancestry of different complexion that there is what? A certain kind of what? Power relationship between them. That some who are lighter think they're actually what? Better. Think they're actually better off because they get a higher salary, because they get perks, they have different outfits. And so all these symbolisms and props really serves to make the paradise experience of these voyeurs possible and instills or reaffirms the plantation lifestyles of the vast majority of people throughout the Caribbean Basin and, of course, across the greater Americas, including Brazil and other parts of the Americas. Now, when we resign to this power dynamic, meaning when we give into it, when we participate in, right, and go along with it, we're giving away our most rarest commodity, our vibranium. We're giving away our spiritual power. Because remember, we human beings are simply spirit in this flesh clothing, right? This flesh is simply clothing. And so we're giving away our power. We're giving away our power base when we yield to and resign to the fact of this slavery colonial power dynamic that is served on a platter called paradise and plantation. The paradise can't exist if these African people relinquish the power they're giving away from themselves to those who want their relationship intact. In other words, if these people of African ancestry that I've seen around one or more hotel or resort or other kinds of Caribbean paradise scenery, if they don't put their head down and bow, if they don't take the crap that these voyeurs and visitors give them, the cussing, the beraping, the disrespect, if they claim their islands for them and that you are in my homeland, you are in my place and you will respect me, if they take that position, they're taking back their power. And so the spirit has everything to do with the power relationship, meaning an enslaved person is really a person that resigns or gives up their power. That's what makes a person enslaved. It's not the chains or the whips. It's not the torture or the violence. It's that they give up their power base. They give up their spirituality. They resign to it and say, hey, I'm yours to do what you will with my body because I've granted you my power base, my energy base, my spiritual power, my platform for living. And when you do that, you become enslaved or re-enslaved. And so the paradise and plantation framework remains intact. It continues. And we look forward to the next vacation. We look forward to the next time we visit one of these idyllic places because the power dynamic remains in place. And the people who make the paradise possible continue, if they choose to give up their power, but they have a choice. They can reclaim their power. I have seen movements in the Caribbean Basin where people are looking to reclaim their land. I've seen movements in Brazil where there are hundreds of quilombos or these maroon communities, or communities that were created by liberated or quasi-liberated people of African ancestry and established their own societies or communities in those places. And they're looking to reclaim their land, reclaim their sovereignty, reclaim what is theirs. In places like Jamaica, there are maroon communities that have their own currency, looking to have their own currency, looking to regain their ancestral lands and take back what's theirs. The same can happen to people in the resorts. You see, here's the not so secret. It is the people who are in the plantation that make paradise possible. What if those same workers and staff members and others refuse to offer paradise? What are the whites and other voyeurs going to do? What are they going to do? Go elsewhere? What, go to Europe? Go to Canada? You see, these people of African ancestry who make paradise possible have more power than they think. And so if they think about the power they really have, then they can flip the script. They can change the plantation of paradise. In fact, they can abolish the plantation of paradise framework and instill instead a kind of society that is kinder to them, that respects their need, that respects their humanity, that respects their personhood, that respect who they are as African peoples, as human beings. But until then, I'll see you at the next resort. I've been your guiding host, Kwesi Kunadu, for yet another episode of Powered by Nyame. Please drop your comments and questions in the comment section below. Until next time, stay well.